Now, folks, if you'll just gather around a little closer now. Come right in a little closer. That's it. That's fine. That's fine, folks.
All right, let's go, because you know what I came in to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
Big loss for Sky Sports, big loss for Ben Shalom. Probably the biggest loss of his career as a promoter. He's still in his 20s. Big win for Frank Warren. I guess now he doesn't have to worry about signing Parker to a longer-term contract because Joyce thrashed and bullied Joseph Parker yesterday. It was never in doubt. Sky, they signed Joseph Parker, and they've got a big reconstruction job to do now because it's a long-term deal. He's 30 years of age, and that was a career-worst performance. It's hard to explain what the strategy was. He was too heavy, career heaviest weight, so his foot speed and his hand speed, which have always been his biggest assets, were not there for him. And it wasn't clear, did they come there to brawl Joe Joyce? Or were they looking to counter him with a right hand and knock him out with one punch? And if that was the strategy, total failure for Andy Lee. Parker seemed at odds on how to fight Joe Joyce, how to mount offense against Joyce. You know, there was no strategy there. There was no, okay, let's try and fight like Joe Frazier and Bob Weave, roll under his jab and come up with our own hooks. There was nothing there. He just went to the ropes as a punch bag until the fight ended and sporadically threw a few shots back here and there. I don't think no one predicted it to be as one-sided as that. I didn't. I picked Joe Joyce in a competitive fight. I didn't see that yesterday. Joyce was very intimidated. He bullied Joseph Parker yesterday. I wouldn't say he hung his chin out there. He rolled a lot of the shots, but he wasn't worried about Joseph Parker's power one bit. And he let him know that. Like, he'd get hit, and then within seconds, he'd be back on the offensive. Parker's punch power was neutralized because he was throwing a lot of them shots without the forward momentum from his legs because he was on the back foot for the majority of the fight. If he was punching back, it was just enough punches to stop the referee stopping the fight or just enough to stop Joyce walking through him and the fight getting stopped earlier. If you look at the AJ Joseph Parker fight, when he was quicker and faster, and I think the fitness levels have dropped since he left Kevin Barry. I don't know if he's trying to do what Tyson Fury did, bulk up and morph into a slugger. But it's not going to work for Joseph Parker, and if they continue that way, his career will take a horrible turn, is what I predict. Like, the foot speed against AJ stopped him getting hit with the type of power shots he was getting hit yesterday. Although AJ wasn't as aggressive as Joyce, admittedly. Joyce just didn't let him breathe, really. That jab was on Joseph Parker all night, water torture. And it demoralized Parker mentally as much as it did physically. He was busted up badly around his left eye. The swelling really came out post-fight. The blood continually gushed from the right side of his face from a cut. And you saw him trying to wipe the blood away during the fight. He was brave, though. Took a lot of punches. Overhand rights, left hooks, body shots. And Parker was in defensive mode very quickly. Some people say it could have been stopped earlier. They could have threw a towel in. Credit due to Ismail Salas and Joyce. After going through Abel Sanchez, Adam Booth, was there anybody else I missed? They seem to have got a good chemistry. And Joyce has marked out a niche for himself, the juggernaut. A unique heavyweight, 271. His punch output seemed to increase as the fight went on, and you would have thought at 271, he's going to slow down at some stage. He didn't slow down. And that's his calling card in the division, which the other heavyweights and their trainers have to watch out for. He's bringing stuff that is hard to prepare for. It may not be technical or fancy like some of the purists like to marvel about. And they're entitled to their opinion. But it is technical. He's using his feet and he's using his jab. Yeah, he was mauling him. He was leaning on his back, using his leverage and weight to drain Parker's battery. The lactic acid must have been burning up in Parker's legs and arms. You felt a little sorry for Parker, you know, like, he was just so out of it. Like, at the end of the 10th, like, he tried hard in the 10th to try and pull it back. But you could see his legs were a little unsteady walking back to the corner. He was busting up and stuff, and Joyce was on it straight away, left hook to the head as soon as the referee broke the two men from a clinch, and it was over. Great finish. Joyce is also very composed. Very composed. Great poker face. I've never seen him look panicked in a fight. There was a few anxious moments against Bryant Jennings, a fight I thought Bryant Jennings nicked. It was revealed that he doesn't really have a big interest in boxing outside his own career. And you can see there's a relaxation in his style, albeit he hasn't fought a puncher like Wilder or AJ yet, or even Fury in his last few fights, and put that quote-unquote granite chin to the test. He is, however, possibly the most entertaining heavyweight out there, and stylistically he matches up well with everybody. Frank Warren should be honest and not lie to Joyce and tell him Fury is ahead in the pecking order in terms of matchmaking to get fights with AJ, Usyk, but there was Frank saying he's going to move all type of earth elements to get him the Usyk fight, but isn't he supposed to do that for Tyson Fury, for Undisputed, get him the Usyk fight? But, you know, Frank has a wealth of riches there now. He has a great contender now, one of the most entertaining fighters in the game. Tyson Fury, WBC champion, and prospect / fringe contender Daniel Dubois. Frank, I don't like the propaganda shit that Frank does, though. It's really cheap and tacky, and there's no need for it, really. You know, I would like to see Joyce and AJ personally next year, without Frank and whoever jumping up and down online, trying to get contracts signed online, trying to get people to commit to deadlines online. Proper negotiation, AJ versus Joe Joyce, late winter, early spring, negotiated professionally between BT, DAZN, Matchroom, and Queensbury. That's the fight I'd like to see. You know, you can't do all this shit and try and say AJ and Eddie doesn't want the fight, and then you're going to fight Manuel CHARR. Since 2016, when he outpointed the second best cruiserweight in Albania, who was Tyson Fury's comeback opponent in 2018, he's had 3 fights. He went the distance with the second best cruiserweight in Albania, actually. Then he went the distance with Ustinov, who Joyce blew away the other year. Fought Christopher Lovejoy and someone named Nikolai Milashik or whatever. Come on, man. That's ridiculous. 3 fights in the last 6 years. And you're going to walk around like you're Joe Louis and Muhammad Ali. The propaganda's a joke and Fury's a joke. Parker faces rehabilitation and a reconstruction job. If Hughie Fury can get past Michael Hunter, that's a good rematch. Fury versus Parker. And let's keep it real, he'll probably have to earn a living taking on prospects and trying to upset some prospects to get his name back up there. He's not in the mix now with the top boys. He's not in the mix. All his 3 losses have been in the UK to 3 of the top British heavyweights. AJ, Dillian Whyte, and now Joe Joyce. Joyce the first man to stop Joseph Parker. You have to give him and Dave Higgins credit. They've been astute businessmen hitching their wagon onto the UK, and they've earned a lot of money. He did beat Hughie Fury over here, defending his WBO title. He earned against Derek Chisora in 2 fights. They definitely robbed Derek in the first fight. You know, he's fought with the top promoters, Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, and even Mick Hennessy. He's made a fortune. So if he decides to stop fighting, he's earned very well off the UK. I don't see any lucrative fights out there for him immediately, which would be a big disappointment for Sky after just signing him and letting him fight on a rival network in BT. Fury and Derek Chisora are in attendance. They got into it over their botched negotiations. I think Fury was offering him a bare knuckle fight and John Fury was getting involved. Chisora was telling him that AJ was going to beat him, and Fury said, no, you won't, I'll beat him and I'll beat you in between rounds. And it was all entertaining. At 37, I would advise Joyce not to wait around for a title shot. Take the right fights for the right money. Make sure you get paid. All this belt shit is going to fuck up a lot of fighters in the game waiting around for belts. 81.6 punches per round compared to a measly 54.7 for Parker illustrates the dominance that Joyce had in this fight. 35.2 jabs thrown per round. 10.2 connects to Joe Joyce. 29.5 thrown 2.2 connects for Parker. So that's where the fight was ultimately lost, with the jab. There was rounds where Parker wasn't landing the jab at all, according to CompuBox. Parker did better in power punches, but between round 6 and the penultimate and last round, round 11, Joyce swamped him. 202 power punches for Joyce, 124 for Parker. DAZN had a card on the same night, and obviously it got drowned out by Joyce and Parker. The main event on DAZN was Kid Galahad and Maxie Hughes at lightweight. Very technical fight to deal with, and it was very close, and it looks like Kid Galahad stepped on Maxie Hughes' foot, got a point taken away, and that point was very crucial, and according to Eddie Hearn, it would have been a draw if that point wasn't deducted. Tough break for Galahad, coming back after the Kiko Martinez loss, so that's 2 losses on the bounce for him. So in May of this year, shortly after beating Linus Udofia for the vacant British middleweight title, good win. Udofia, very fit, very strong, and capable. World class? No. Not yet. He'll be back, looking to make some improvements and try to make his mark. Post-fight, Bentley told DENZEL on Frank Warren's Queensbury YouTube channel that he can beat JANIBEK. Now, JANIBEK has a minor cult fan base who believe he's the second coming of Christ. And this is the belt, obviously, that Andrade had up till a short while ago. He declined to take on JANIBEK. Eddie Hearn said, well, they're not going to make this fight, basically because of risk-reward. JANIBEK is not going to bring people to the gate, definitely not pay-per-view worthy, and they weren't going to make the fight. But Andrade didn't want it. Let's keep it real, he didn't want this fight. And, afraid to say it, he would have got more than 180 grand for fighting JANIBEK than Frank's putting on the table for him to fight Zach Parker in the revised purse bid. Even if the fight didn't take place on DAZN, if the fight had took place on Top Rank, Andrade crossed over to Top Rank, Bob would have paid him way more than that, 120 grand. But you know, the Andrade thing, I know I'm waffling on about that a lot, but let's look at this now. It's a voluntary defense. Bentley is ranked number 14 amongst the WBO's 160-pound contenders. JANIBEK isn't required at this time to make a mandatory defense of a belt that he won from Danny Dignam. Denzel's better than Danny. Danny was defeated in the second round. He did his best. This fight will take place in November in Las Vegas, where Oscar Valdez was supposed to headline. Is replacing that fight there. Valdez suffered a non-boxing injury and he's going to be out for a little while. Quick turnaround for Denzel Bentley. Last week, on the 16th of September, he defended that British title he won from Linus Udofia against Marcus Morrison and destroyed Morrison in 4. So the one thing he does have is activity on his side. Been fighting regular. JANIBEK has only fought the once this year, and you have to ask why? Why only once? I mean, the Danny Dignam fight wasn't even good sparring. He needs to be more active than that. Now, JANIBEK will go in. Huge favourite. 12-0, 8 knockouts, 5'11", 71.5-inch reach. He's 29, no spring chicken, so wants to get a move on as well. Denzel around 5'10", 72-inch reach. He has the 1 loss against Felix Cash, the 1 draw against Mark Heffron, 17 wins, 14 KOs. Can he pull off the upset? Is the question. I hope he's being compensated well. Denzel's only had 17 amateur fights. You could argue that this opportunity is coming a little early. He's 27 years of age. What do you do? Say no? Somebody under a post that I was contributing to said he's susceptible to the counter right hand. And yeah, he is. Ideally, you'd want to iron out a few more flaws before taking on JANIBEK, but this is why Bob Arum is making the fight. It's a voluntary that they believe they win easy. And Denzel has to show them, I'm here for the belt. I'm here for the strap. Now you can expect the usual suspects like Sam Jones and Dave Caldwell, who like telling British fighters what they're limited of achieving. Oh, we can't have that. We better call the border control and make sure that Denzel never fights JANIBEK ever. And all that shit there. And who knows, they may turn out to be accurate. He might get routed in a one-sided fight. But it's up to him to close them voices out, them dissenting voices out. bond with his team as a unit up there at the Peacock Gym, get ready and shock the blood clot world. The kid from Battersea. I like the fact that in May he said he could beat the guy, and they say be careful what you ask for, and here it is. Here it is. I like British fighters who are willing to challenge the best and not just hear an Eastern European or American name and buckle before the world and no, I can't do it, and display this non-competitive disposition. I don't like it. If you don't believe you can win, don't take the fight. But if you believe you can win and you're offered the fight, you're offered the payday, why are all these other people who we see in the mainstream boxing media from the United Kingdom saying you shouldn't take the fight? Oh, there's no way. We got to call the Queen or King Charles and make sure it doesn't happen. And all this nut shit. You don't see that in America, do you? Or do you hear about that in Eastern Europe or Mexico? I don't think people get what I'm saying. I'm not telling Dave Caldwell or anyone else that you have to show the display of British patriotism and bias. No, make your prediction. I don't think he's going to win. But all this, oh, the fight can't happen. No. Stop with that. Just do your best. Train hard, do your best. Looking at the form book, he's lost at domestic level to Felix Cash and lost badly as well. But let the man have his moment and let him go for it. For crying out loud. Like Sam Jones. And look, Sam knows the game. So even though I was pissed with Sam Jones, I know he knows the game. And I think Eddie and whoever manages Lee Wood has been listening to these people online saying, why are you fighting Mauricio Lara? What's the reward for fighting Mauricio Lara? Exactly. You're trying to prove how brave and tough you are to impress people. If you beat this unknown Mexican, no one's going to bat an eyelid. The more popular fights are with Leo Santa Cruz and a rematch with Michael Conlan. And Lee Wood said he was injured, but I'm going to bet that fight is not rescheduled and not revisited again. Not for now anyway. And I think people are listening to people like Sam Jones. What did Sam Jones say? Oh, you're just going to get a headache and need headache pills. It's too dangerous. He fancied Lara to win. And that's fair enough. But if we're going down this route where we're just going to dismiss fights because we think someone's going to lose, where's boxing going to end up? Yeah, they're talking about Leo Santa Cruz, Michael Conlan, but it's probably going to be Josh Warrington, right? And Warrington's calling him out today. We're going to do it in the City Ground, Nottingham stadium fight. 2 featherweights making ton load of money, 2 Brits, 2 Matchroom, 2 DAZN fighters. Yeah, I could act like I'm pissed for Mauricio Lara, but if I was in the boardroom, I'd be doing exactly what they're doing. I would. So, I'm a hypocrite. Hands up.
You step this way, you're getting played out of position.
I believe the first bid for Zach Parker versus Demetrius Andrade was won by Frank Warren, 1.8 million, of which Andrade would have cleared 1.1 million, Zach Parker around 640,000. Eddie bid over $1 million. And I'm making an assumption here. I don't think no one else bid, just Eddie and Frank. But Demetrius, he doesn't want to fight JANIBEK. JANIBEK now has his 160-pound belt. And even if he wanted to go challenge JANIBEK for the belt now, JANIBEK will have the upper hand now he's the champion. Bob Arum will offer Demetrius peanuts, basically. And his other option was to revisit the Zach Parker fight at 168. Well, that fight resurfaced and there was a purse bid. This time, Frank Warren bid just over 300,000, nearly 6 times less than what he bid originally. Is Andrade going to take the fight? It's scheduled for November in the UK. I don't know if he'll fight for that little. What are his options? I mean, Golden Boy Munguia, it doesn't look like it. Triple G, doesn't look like it. Canelo, 168, doesn't look like it. Charlo, PBC, can't see it. David Benavidez, well, they asked for 7 million, didn't they? Must be the lowest point of his career. Was he really injured when he initially declined the first fight with Zach Parker when the purse bid was up at 1.8 million? Who knows? Frank Warren, he knew that Eddie wasn't going to bid this time around. Eddie and Demetrius have parted ways. Demetrius has left the zone, amicably or not. Eddie's not bidding for the fight. In the original purse bid, like I said, I'm assuming no one else bid outside Frank and Eddie. So I'm assuming that the second time around, no one is going to bid this time either. Eddie's out. It's just Frank. Frank is bidding by himself. Did he make the minimum bid at 300,000? What's the minimum bid you can make? You got the fight on the cheap. Now, Parker would take the short end of the 300,000 split from the last bid. And that means Frank would be shorting Parker, who is signed to him. His purse is going from 640 from the original bid to around 120. I don't think Frank would do that to Zach Parker. I think they've made an arrangement. I'm just going to bid 300 grand so that way I can pay Dimitri as little as possible. If you don't want to take the fight, you can run and jump. And he'll probably give Zach, I don't know, 500, 600, maybe his original purse, 640 grand. It's not like Frank's losing. He's getting an interim world title fight, cut price. Well, I'm sure we'll soon find out how much Dimitri either needs the fight or the money. Andrade may have to take a more realistic approach in selecting what fights he can get. That's all I can say. Jake Paul has to grow up a little, take a more adult approach on how he views things in the combat sports world. Now, I hear he took down the tweet or video where he said Eddie is paying off judges like Glenn Feldman because of Feldman scoring in AJ's favor in the Usyk fight and against Amanda Serrano when she lost to Katie Taylor. But people complained about Jake Paul's fight, his first fight with Tyron Woodley. He's got a short memory. A lot of people said it was a robbery. They said it was fishy, a dodgy fight. He had to run it again, and yeah, he knocked him out second time around. But the stigma of something isn't quite right with the first fight doesn't disappear with that. They were making arguments that when Woodley landed a hook and Jake rocked back into the ropes, it should have been scored a knockdown. Was that fixed? Was that rigged by Showtime? Eddie should go all the way through with this defamation because he had the chance to apologize, Jake Paul, but he's being rather childish. He's fighting undersized fighters, guys who haven't stepped in a boxing ring before. And I was all fair game with it, but if you're going to accuse people of being crooked, well, there's a lot of people who don't think he's legit either, and that there's an agenda behind what he's doing. There's question marks on the PED testing that he does. It might be legit, but there are questions. There are questions. Just like there may be questions about Eddie and Glenn Feldman. There are questions there, yeah. But what can you prove?